Center Administrator, and I am happy to be able to lead service today as Reverend Marla and Becca Palm are on retreat with about 20 of our fellow community members up in Rainbow Lodge. And so I'm very glad to be here. And lucky for us, that means we welcome back Reverend Patric Creelman, not only as our guest artist, but also as our guest speaker. So we are lucky to have him here. He is a staff minister and the director of operations at CSL Seattle. He is ordained as an interfaith minister from the One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. And before he was a minister, he toured North America and the world as a performer in TV, film, and theatrical productions. And he considers himself a perpetual student of all things creative and life-affirming. And I know from his Facebook posts that he is a chocolate connoisseur and aficionado, and so that, in my book, makes him a soul brother from another mother. We are so grateful you are here, for all that you will bring us in who you are and what the divine heart will bring through you to us. Thank you. Our reading for this morning comes from Psalms for Praying by Nan Merrill, and it is excerpts from Psalm 46. The beloved is our refuge and strength, a loving presence in times of trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. The beloved is in the midst of the holy city, it shall not be moved. Our loving Creator is an ever-present help. The nations may be at war, yet the voice of the Almighty is heard, melting hearts of stone. The beloved is with us, the infinite heart of love. Come, behold the works of the beloved, how love does reign, even in humanity's desolation. For the beloved makes wars to cease, breaking through barriers of fear. Be still and know that I am God. The one who knows all hearts is with us. The beloved is our refuge and our strength. And so it is. For our affirmation this morning, I'm going to read it through, and then we will stand together as able and affirm it together. You can find it on the screen, or you can find it on the back of the card insert in your bulletin. It's always printed there. Everywhere I look, I see the infinite presence of the loving one. Grounded in oneness and unity, I see and know the truth. God is large and in charge, and heaven is at hand. And so it is. Please stand as able. Everywhere I look, I see the infinite presence of the living one. Grounded in oneness and unity, I see and know the truth. God is large and in charge, and heaven is at hand. And so it is.
So good morning. It's my joy to meet you and greet you again this morning. This is getting to be a habit. I'm kind of liking that. I'm meeting you in the power and the presence of that which knows itself and has created itself in its own image and likeness and named itself as each and every one of us here. It is my joy to be here with you today. I thank Becca and Reverend Marla for inviting me back, and for you for hosting, and thank you, Reverend Monica. So why did I choose In the Silence? Well, we're in that time, and as it turns out, CSL Seattle was at Rainbow Lodge at the beginning of the week, and Unity is at Rainbow Lodge at the end of the week. So there's this recognition between our communities of the importance of what it is to go into silence, the importance of what that can offer to us as a spiritual community, as an individual, and as a practice. Now, I know this month's theme is getting grounded, and we're going back to the basics. And last week, Reverend Marla spoke about the first principle First unity principle, God is good, God is absolute, God is everywhere present. And there is only one power and one presence alive in the universe, and that is my life, God's life, the good, omnipotent. Now, religious science has a similar principle. There is only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is my life now. Ernest Holmes goes on to say that the only life you can have is the life of spirit within you. You need to but permit its radiance to flow through your thought and into self-expression. So, God is, I am. That's my theme. My message for the talk today, and you can believe it or not, but it's the truth. You don't have to believe it. The universe doesn't care, really, if you believe it. It's just operating. It's the creative force that's moving itself out into the world. We don't have to do anything to make this happen. It's happening all it's happening all on its own. And in fact, we can't do anything to make this happen. Love expresses, God expresses, light has its way with us and moves us and propels us into the world. Love does. The very nature of God is creative. The very nature of universal source is creative. It's always creating more of itself so that it can know itself. God can't, love can't, source can't know itself unless it's expressed something and is in relationship to it. It does that all the time. And we do the same thing in our way. And the best thing we can do is to get out of the way. You know, the best thing we can do is to stop impeding the expressions of God, of good in our life. I'm thinking of this moment of this realization that I had when my mother passed a few years ago. And we were in the hospice. And I was there for a couple months with her. And there was this experience this one night. You know, I don't know if any of you know, but when you get in those states of exhaustion and dreaminess, and there's the veil is thin between you and whatever source is. And this one night, near the end of her life, I had been sleeping over on a daybed in the room with her for all these months, being of service to her and my father, and as they went through this process. And this one night around 2 or 3 in the morning, I was exhausted, but you still wake up and you're going back and forth from sleep to not sleeping to, I don't know what's happening. Am I dreaming? Is this a meditation? What's going on? And I had this image. I looked over at my mother as she was sleeping, and there's this image of me being connected to her and really, for lack of a better word, to the womb that was sort of the universe that she created me from. There was this moment where I was connected to her, and then I didn't freak out about that, but just sort of allowed that thought to be. It's like, what is it? And then it took me further and further into this sort of spiral dynamic experience that allowed me to connect to her, allowed me to connect to her mother, to the mother before that, to the mother before that, to the mother before that, and to the mother before that, to all of creation. I had this awareness. It was a true awakening of myself as one with creation. And it was myself as one through creation through the human that created me. So it literally was God is, she is, I am. There was this experience of direct connection to creative source. Now, I didn't really know what that meant at the time because I was still going through the grief and the experience of that. But years later, as I was going through seminary and various things I started to write and learn about, this other piece came to me. That contained within us all is the divine promise of our nature. Contained within each of us is the gift of who we are. It's all there waiting for each of us to claim, to name, to live, to express, and to embody. But first, we must listen. We have this idea that we have to do things in order to achieve. We have to do things in order to become something. That's the world we live in. But I know that our greatest sense of I amness is not going to come from doing more. My greatest sense of I amness came from being still, from living in the mystery, not knowing what was coming, and allowing God, life, love, source, to have its impression on my being. Now we talk about in affirmative prayer, the first step is we recognize God. Most of us, that's pretty easy. We can have some names for it. God is the universal source, light, divine, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Father, Mother, God. So there's lots of words for it, and some people do say blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. As long as it gets you to God, it doesn't matter. The next step is to unify ourselves with the source. This is the affirmative prayer that I know. I am. So in religious science, I remember the step says, God is, I am, I declare, thank you, I'm out. So those are the 5 steps. Right now we're talking about the I am. And it's pretty easy to identify I am. We have these words like I am one with source, I am one with the light, I am one. But that's really a neck up experience. It's really a intellectual, yes, I've got the vocabulary, I've got these ideas, I've been told this. But there is no experience of I amness without personal experience. When I was doing Vipassana meditations, I've done several of those. They're 10-day silent meditations where you have nothing to distract you. I saw that. She did not like that. I don't know if you've been to it, but it's tricky. And after I did the first one, I went and I said, I do not want to do this again. Because it's hard. Because you're in 10 days in silence, having a solitary experience. You've let go of your cell phone, you let go of books, you don't have prayer beads. They ask you to completely surrender all of your spiritual practices to this practice. And you don't interact with people, you don't say, hi, how are you? You don't speak, you don't have a radio, you don't journal, you don't do anything other than be with who you are and your experience of God. How's that showing up for you? And one of the lines in this teaching, so I went back 4 times. Even though I said I didn't want to do it, and each time I do it and I finish, I said, well, I'll need to do that again. And then at some point later on, it's like, oh, I'm really drawn to doing 10 days worth of silence again. And then I get there, and we lock down after the first day, and I'm like, oh, what the heck did I sign up for again? I don't want to be here for another 10 days. Ugh, curses. But it's always paid off, and it's always been great, and it's always been a different experience. Because we show up differently each time. We've had a journey. Brings us back to silence in a different way. Brings us back to God in a different way. Brings us back to spiritual practice in a new experiential way. So there's one line that sticks through. Every night we had a Dharma talk from, I forget his name now. Anyhow, doesn't matter. But he's this amazing Indian gentleman who is hilarious, profound, and is a comedian within that world. It's just crazy. But he had this one line. He says, if it's not true for you through personal experience, it is not the truth for you. He said, you can go to Buddha, you can listen to these other talks, you can listen to me, all of that is very interesting. But until it becomes a personal, embodied experience, it is not the truth for you. So that is what spiritual practice is for, and that's what really going into the silence is for. Stilling the mind, being open and awakened to a personal experience. Now, when I was going through my practitioner training, Reverend Jennifer Berkeley in New Jersey, we have another connection, Canada and New Jersey, all that, and New York, New Jersey. She said, yes, recognize God, and then she trained us unify with God, and she says, you do not leave this step until you know, move on to a question without doubt as the feeling tone of what it is to be one with God. You do not leave this place. So sometimes the second step was the longest step of our prayers. Because when you live and embody connection to God, connection to Source, then whatever you declare is absolutely done. Then you truly know, and you can stand in front of someone and say, I know this truth for you, because I know the truth for me. And I know it for myself as God to you, to you, to you. I can know that absolutely. Standing in the power and the presence, and recognize and see that which has been named as each and every one of us, created from that which thou art. I can know that. But first, we'll go back to listening, so we can actually embody the I amness. And most religions and spiritual practices and teachings encourage us to participate in some version of being still and knowing that I am God, being still and listening. They invite us to learn more and to listen more deeply so that we may hear more clearly, so that the words that come from our mouths as prayers be informed by something other than our desire to accomplish, something other than our desire to complete, something other than our desire to achieve, so that our experience is that of a soulful uprising from the quiet times that informs our ideas. And so that the ideas become our words become our actions, and our actions become our lives, our living, and our living becomes our lives, and our lives become more fully expressed knowing of ourselves as one with God, as the representation of the ever-creating force that moves through, in, and as each and every one of us. Well, that was a lot. But that's what's possible if we get still and listen. So I know both of our communities have been in or are currently in a silent retreat. I don't think theirs is as intense as mine was, but I think, because I know they got to journal and they have music and they have other things, so that's good. But I wanted to read you this prayer poem, I would call it, by Macarena Whitaker. I'm sure I mispronounced that, but I think it's right. She's written two poems, Listening to Spring, which I love, and then Listening to Winter, which I just discovered a couple weeks ago, and I love it even more. Both have different approaches to listening and what it is you're expecting to listen to for in those seasons. Listening in the winter is very different than listening into the spring. Listening for the spring, so you're listening for the new life, you're listening for what's coming up, you're listening for all of that. Listening in the winter, you're going internally. So just enjoy this. I'll read it for you. The trees have shed their colorful autumn robes. Winter is raging through the dark, empty branches. And I am listening. I'm listening to the roar and to the quiet of winter. I am listening to a beauty that sometimes remains unseen. I am listening. I am listening to the seed hidden in the earth. I am listening to the dark swallowing up the light. I am listening to faith rising out of doubt. I am listening to the need to believe without seeing. I am listening. I am listening to the season of contemplation, to the urgency of our world's need for reflection. I am listening to all that awaits within the earth, to bulbs and seeds and deep roots dreaming. I am listening to the sacred winter rest. I am listening. I'm listening to long nights, comforting darkness, fruitful darkness, beautiful darkness. I'm listening to the darkness of the winter season. I'm listening to the sparks of hope within that darkness. I am listening. I'm listening to the storm raging out my window, to storms raging in my heart. I'm listening to all that makes me pull the cloak a little tighter. I'm listening to trust buried deep beneath the ground of my own being. I am listening. I'm listening to the kind permission of the season to rest more often, to reflect more deeply, to pray without words. I'm listening to the sacrament of non-doing. I am listening. I'm listening to my dreams and inner visions, to the unknown wrapped in the mystery of life, to tears trapped in the underground streams of my being, to seeds watered daily by those tears. I am listening. I am listening to the quiet life in winter's womb. I'm listening to winter nurturing spring. I'm listening to brilliant winter sunsets and lovely frosty mornings. I'm listening to snowflakes flying through the air, to the cold winds that often blow, to bare trees so lovely in their emptiness, and I'm listening to the one leaf that never did let go. I'm listening. I'm listening to winter, handing over spring. I'm listening to the poetry of winter. I'm listening. I love that poem. So ultimately, what are we listening for, and what's the whole point? So in my mind, listening informs an idea, a relationship, a way of being in the world. And I know Reverend Marla led you on a practice last week, the White Stone practice. And some of that was that you let go of something that no longer serves you, an idea, something that from the past year, something that you no longer need. And then you got the stone, got a word that inspired. What did she say? Something, what did she say about walking in the world? How will I walk in the world if this word about me was the truth? In my mind, the word that came up, likely for many people, was the soul whispering. Not the ego. We have those words. Those come very easily. But the soul says, hey, be more loving. The soul says, be more empowered. The soul says something to each and every one of us, and the hope is that we all listen to that, and we all got that word. And the soul is calling us forward and calling us to our greatest sort of expression of itself as us. And the Spirit never stops communicating to us. And she asks how you might walk in the world if this word was infusing your being. What quality of beingness do I want to express as I walk through my days? This is a powerful practice. This is essentially an I am practice. It's a co-creative practice. Listening and then taking that word as a informing principle, a God quality, and how do we be that in the world? Now there's a message that's very clear to me, and the message keeps coming over and over and over. No, I'm going to tell you. I'm just putting on the edge of your seat. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, need a piano player on that one. The message was, and is, and keeps coming back, what you have been seeking in the world, you are actually here to deliver it. What we've been seeking, we are here to be it. What I am seeking from other people in the world, from a job, from an organization, from a community, from a profession, from anything, I am actually here to deliver it. I'm looking for support, I have to be supportive. Now you're seeking to be more, seeking to experience more love in the world, you have to be more loving. If you're seeking to experience more compassion in the world, then you have to be more compassionate. When Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world, he wasn't kidding. It wasn't a joke or a cute idea. It wasn't a meme for Facebook or a little saying to put on a t-shirt or put on a mug, although I have the meme, the t-shirt and the mug. I do. You've probably seen it on Facebook. Be the chocolate you wish to eat in the world. No. So be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the thing you wish to experience in the world. What were some of the qualities? Anyone willing to share a quality that you got for the White Stone ceremony? Just one of the words. Light. Perfect. If you want to see more light, be more. If you want to experience more light in the world, then you have to be a light in the world. Like a light attached to my feet, the path is made clear. That it leads me to other people that are of similar mind, of similar motion. And if you're seeking more love in the world, then we're being called to deliver that very thing to the world. We cannot be expecting the world to give us something when we are not willing to offer it. And if you're not willing to receive it, then you're not really open to being it. This is the law of reciprocation, the law of circulation. We have to extend ourselves out in order to be in relationship with God. We have to stand still and be quiet so that we can be in relationship with God. Otherwise, it's just our ego propelling us through the world. We have ideas of what we should do, but God can lead the way. There's this story about this gentleman. I just remembered. He wanted to please God. Oh, he prayed, let me please God. I want to do something in the world that pleases the universe, that pleases life. So he went to sleep, and he got this message, got this voice. This voice said, go out. I don't know if he sounded like that, but go out and push a rock. Okay. The guy woke up and was like, well, that's a weird voice. Is he a tenor? Is he a baritone? What is that? So he went out. He was so excited and elated. He ran down the field and found a big rock and started pushing it. And he pushed this rock and pushed this rock. It was a big boulder. And he pushed it and pushed it and pushed it all day. Nothing happened. He didn't move it. But he didn't give up. He went to bed and got up the next morning, went down to that same rock, pushed the rock. Nothing happened. He did the same thing over and over and over and over again for 3 months. Got up. I got the message. Okay, I hear that very clearly. I'm pushing the rock. He gets frustrated in those last days. Says, I keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and nothing's happening. I quit. Goes home, goes to bed, frustrated. God. I'm sure none of us have had that experience. I quit. Yay. You didn't give me what I wanted. You said to do something, and I'm doing it, and you didn't give it. That might be an old model, but that's still playing in my head a little bit. So he goes to bed, and the voice comes back and says, what happened? You stopped pushing. He says, yeah, I pushed and nothing happened. I kept pushing and pushing and pushing, nothing happened. And the voice said, what do you mean nothing happened? Look how strong and determined you've been this past few months. Look at the muscles changed in your body. Look at how you've shown up committed to the task I've given you. Besides, I didn't ask you to move the rock. I said, push it. I'll move the rock when it's time. Right? How many times have we tried to force the issue thinking that we got a message and we rework it in our brain through our ego and saying, I know what that meant. And we go out and move forward and try to do something, and it's not what the message really meant at all for us to do. And then we reset ourselves. I've never had to reset myself in my life. Daily, hourly, weekly, yearly, decadely. We reset, okay, God. Okay, Spirit, okay, whatever word it is you want to say. But sometimes I just like, shut up, Patrick. When I was a dancer, I was a dancer for years. There was this saying in, one of the decades, the 80s, that said, shut up and dance. Pretty classic. Big T-shirts. Paula Abdul had it on one of her videos. It was around everywhere. And at first that made me a little angry. Like, don't tell me to shut up. But then I got it. The teacher said, no, get out of your way and let the dance have its way with you. You know the dance, you know the steps, you know the movement, you hear the music, you've got the team. Shut the brain off and do the work that is yours to do. What it is that you've been choreographed, and allow the technique to be present because you've rehearsed it, and allow it to fall away so that Spirit can move through you, so that the magic can happen, so that the sparks that we all want in our lives, so that alignment can happen. That alignment doesn't happen by thinking it. That alignment happens by getting out of the way. That alignment happens by stop looking for the results and the achievement and the goal validation. Show up. Know that we are one with God. Learn what is ours to do, and then go out and do that. That's a good lesson. We cannot keep expecting to be inspired by something out there if we do not allow the same possibility for inspiration to well up from within us. And if we are not willing to share that, to deliver that inspiration to the world, somehow. Not all of us are going to be a public speaker. Not all of us are going to be do something great. Mother Teresa said we can't all do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. A lot of us, probably the bulk of us, are supposed to do a lot of small things with great love. We don't all have the big lives that some people have, where we can all open the door for someone. We can all bring cans of food. We all have one can of food that we can offer someone who is in need. Speaking to the Super Bowl that's out there, I see the cans are building. But that is an example of knowing what is yours to do. It can be a small thing. It can be a large thing as well. So God is, you are, and God is absolute and everywhere present, period. Okay, let's go for brunch. No. So there's one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is your life now, period. You are here to be the representation of God in action. We are here to be that which we seek. We are here to deliver something that is personal for us. But first, we must listen to what's around us, to what's within us, and we must accept the truth of our own divine name and nature, and know that God has expressed itself as us, as we are, period. And we must be willing to live that truth out into the world. Enough said.